What if you were to listen to an internationally acclaimed, multi-award-winning illusionist, and he had something far more to say than, "Watch this trick"? Rick Thomas is that performer, ready to go far beyond his magic and far beyond your imagination as he shares secrets regarding our dreams. Dreams that can become reality. The future belongs to those who believe in the strength of their dreams. Dreams pass into the reality of action. From the action stems the dream again. And this interdependence produces the highest form of living. Join Rick and his co-host, award-winning broadcaster Tammy Trujillo, for Nothing Happens Until You Dream. Indulge your mind and take a journey never to be forgotten. A journey connecting all of our dreams as we chase them together.
I kind of feel, Rick, we ought to have some kind of like drum roll or something to open up this episode, because we are pretty much halfway through the book, The Tiger Whisker, and we are at the episode where the story of the Tiger Whisker is told. And so many people have been saying, well, when are you going to do it? What does it mean? Well, you're about to find all of that good stuff out, because that's where we are.
You're also going to find out, and I haven't told Tammy, but there's another person involved that needs to be thanked for this story, and we'll get to it, that isn't in the book. It's so difficult because you could continue to write a book for your entire life and you just won't get it right. It won't be perfect, and you're going to read it and you're going to find out that there are flaws. There's something that should have been said that wasn't. Look, it's on paper. It's there now. Move on. Write another book.
No, I get you. I do.
So, but this one, I want to do a reach out to someone very special that happened to be a big part of that story as well, and we'll get to it.
Okay, so the Tiger Whisker. Tigers, you've got other animals, you've got the birds and the cockatoos and macaws and all of these things. But the tigers, for so many years, were the center point of your universe.
Yes.
Center point of the show. Just a remarkable moments when they came on stage. Everybody, I think, was jealous because they would love to have been the one to pat the tiger or have the respect of the tiger or be able to interact like you did with the tigers. So
I think this is where, having the tigers for 20 years, I forgot the relationship I had with those tigers and the privilege I had that very few people can experience. So after those 20 years working with the tigers, it is not mundane.
Right.
It is not. It is part of my life. I raised my family around these animals. They felt they were family. They didn't see life different because that's what they were around. And everybody, no matter how you were raised and what you're raised in, that is your norm. So once those tigers were in my life for 20 years, it became for me my norm.
Right.
And I forgot often, when someone had the opportunity to see the tigers for the first time, what it truly meant to them, and the experience that I had when I first experienced I remember Zeus was my first tiger. And I remember when they introduced Zeus to me, and I stood there right there in California. He was actually a tiger used in movies and in commercials. And I sat there, I stood there frozen, staring at this. He was only at that time 2 years old. But by the time a tiger reaches 2 years old, they are mature. They are a full-grown tiger, and they mean business.
They know it.
So, right. But he was well-trained, and it was an awesome moment for me. And sometimes you forget.
When you let me come on stage after a show in Las Vegas, and this is kind of when we were first getting to know each other, really, and you let me hold one of the tiger cubs. I'm thinking, was it Morpheus?
There were two of them at that time.
Right.
It was Morpheus and Mercury.
I think it was Morpheus. And you actually let me hold him, and we took a picture together with Morpheus. It's a grainy old cell phone camera picture. I wish it was better, but it is up on my website, Rick, because it was like, I'm holding a baby tiger. Oh my gosh. And you just picked him up and handed it to me like, here you go.
Well, of course. And I didn't ask you for any money, and it wasn't a scam, and it wasn't me trying to, no, it was just there. Somebody is there next to me and they had the opportunity to be near the tigers. Here, hold the tiger.
Yeah, he just happened to come out on stage. I don't know how or why he did, because you guys were kind of, wrapping things up to go home. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And you just picked him up and went, here, you want to hold him? Like,
yes,
oh my God, I'm holding a tiger. You did it so matter-of-factly. And I remember in the back of my head that kind of, whoa, okay, cool. And it was wonderful. I didn't even want to give him back. I don't know how you got him away from me, because it was a very special moment. And again, to you, it was no big deal. Here, hold a tiger cub.
I had a few.
Wow. Yeah, you did.
gone through it. Now, you got to remember also that raising tiger cubs is like raising a child. When they grow up, they become tigers. But I mean, when you're feeding a baby cub, it is constant. Every 2 hours, you got a bottle, holding them, cradling them, 24 hours a day, making sure that they get their exercise as well, and that they're cradled and they're warm and they're comfortable. And yes, they are. It's so when I think of 1, 2, 3, or 10 tiger cubs that have been raised, it can be a handful. But that being the case, I think I should have made it just hand it to you. And here's a bottle.
I would have known what to do, because, we do the baby kittens.
Oh, that's right.
Right? So I know. Oh, gosh.
Yes. And for everybody out there who has the animals, raises animals, and has the little babies, bravo to you, because it is a handful. And it should be respected for those that really, truly love and care for these animals the way that so many of you do.
But I think everybody in your audience, at all the thousands of shows you have done, I would say probably 99% of those people would do anything to come up and pat one of those magnificent creatures or hold a baby like I got to, because it's something that very few people get to do. And for a lot of people, it's just an absolute, it's a dream. It'll never happen. They know it, but if it only could.
Yes, and that is the reason why a Tiger Whisker came into the story. I'm going to use the name Sarah. That's the name I used in the book. I know the family's name. I know her name. And it's best I just say Sarah. So a wonderful family. Now, I shake hands with everybody who wants to say goodbye after the show. I go outside. I've never missed a performance. I just chat with people after the show, and it's part of what I do. And at the end of one performance, there was a family standing there waiting patiently while everybody was saying their goodbyes. And they walked up to us.
Let's let people know that you stay out there like 45 minutes, an hour.
Yes, an hour.
Yeah.
I know. You
really are one of the only performers I've ever known, especially after doing a show like you've done. I mean, because it's physical. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. You've got to be tired. And you stay. You will stay until the last person in that lobby is done. I've never known, and I've known many, many performers, stage performers, musicians. They kind of at one point will call it. No, you don't. You don't.
Maybe it's just I have nothing else to do. No, I don't really. I got plenty to do.
You don't want to go home and take a shower and get out of your stage clothes and kick back.
Right.
No, not you.
I don't know what it is. I don't know.
It's wonderful.
It's part of the show. It's just, I wish there is not a reason. I truly, after doing as many shows as I have throughout my career, I don't need to stand out there and listen to accolades. It is not my attempt. I just want to say goodbye and thank people for giving me part of their life.
That's it, because people have now met you. And there's something so special, Rick. And sometimes as performers, we forget. We really forget the impact we have on people. Because the shows become the norm. The on-air stuff becomes the norm. But for those people, that night was not the norm for your people in your audience. That was a special night, and it's made even more special because they get to meet that guy who they've been watching do these amazing things for the last 90 minutes. And that just caps it. It really does.
No, let's correct you. That's last 2 hours.
Okay, 2 hours. Excuse me.
Well, in Vegas, 90 minutes, they want to get everybody back out into the casino to gamble. In our show here in Branson and across the country, it goes to about 2 hours.
Gotcha.
Either way, you're pretty close. And I'm just playing.
I know you are. I know. It makes it even that more special because when you're on stage, when people watch, people don't think that performers are just regular folks that can chit chat and say hi. And people walk out of there not only having had a wonderful experience, but they met you. You know each other now. It's a big deal.
Maybe in my situation, I want them to know I'm the same person they saw on stage. It's not an act. Let me also preface this by saying that I am not trying to embellish this. This is a very hard thing for me to share and have it go onto the podcast. However it may be said, I don't want to try to make this some grand, amazing event. I just want to share the story and it get right.
All right. It's a very special story. So, all right. You've got the family. They've waited and waited while everybody stood and talked to you. And they're just kind of over in the side, just quietly waiting.
You have a mother, a father, 2 sons, and their daughter. Their daughter is about 13 years old. And like I said, we'll call her Sarah. And they came up and asked if it was at all possible, after everybody had left, if they could actually come back into the theater and pet one of my white tigers. And this has asked constantly.
I'm sure.
There are people that are always saying, just like you said, I just handed you the cub and there was the cub and you held on to it. But there are people that are literally just, Rick, I want to pet the tigers. I want to hold the tigers. I want to get near a tiger. And what's my answer? Usually.
No.
Because they are a wild animal.
Yes.
And you just can't do it. You just can't do this with everyone. But they did stay and they waited long and I looked into their eyes and I still said no. And it didn't take long before a woman who was with them stepped forward and said, I am from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And their 13-year-old daughter is part of our program. And her wish, with the challenges that she's facing, is to pet a tiger. And I stood there silent for a moment, thought about the scenario. And there was literally at that time, in my mind, one thing I could do.
Correct.
I called backstage. I told my crew, stay where you are. Do not leave the theater. I am bringing a family back to see Samson. Now, I say Samson because he was my finest tiger. He was a teddy bear. He was stunning. At the same time, you could lay on top of him and watch a movie.
And he was beautiful, too.
He is beautiful. So Samson, I had no fear with Samson being near somebody just because of the kind of animal that he was my entire existence. So at that time, I brought the family backstage. Actually, I brought them onto the stage. We stood there. One of my handlers, Ricky Brandon, brought Samson out. We sat him on the stage and allowed this 13-year-old girl to pet the tiger and ask questions. And for about 15 minutes, we had a very special moment with this family. And it was great to see it in their faces. Everybody there was, of course, thrilled.
Oh, yeah.
And
of course.
That's it. I mean, it literally was all about just giving that family their needed moment for their daughter with the challenges she was facing. I also want to let people know that what I understand about the Make-A-Wish Foundation is that the illnesses that these children face can be terminal, and many of them are, but it doesn't mean it will go that route. These are challenges that they're facing, and they're giving children with these so many challenges in their life something to give them hope and love and support of what they're going through. That being said, this is where I must deviate slightly from the story that I wrote in the book. And I'm giving a shout out to Ricky Brandon. Ricky, of course, as I just told you, brought the tiger out and brought him to the center of the stage. He was my right-hand man. Ricky knew everything about the tigers. We raised them together. He was by my side and he was a tremendous support. and successful support of my production in Las Vegas. No one person can accomplish everything that I did by myself.
Right.
And I surrounded myself by great people, and he was one of them. And I bring his name up because when the family was leaving, I say in the book, I thought I would give her something.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, Ricky turned to me and said, why don't we give her a Tiger Whisker?
Oh.
He whispered it to me and said, why don't we do this?
Uh-huh.
And I thought immediately, wonderful, go find one, go grab one. So I told the family to wait. And the reason was when he brought the Tiger Whisker forward, there is a saying, and I even told the girl that night, there is a saying in India. I even told the girl that night when I gave her this special Tiger Whisker, I said, I want to give you something. I want to give you something special to remember your evening by.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, in India, it is said that if you can pull a Tiger Whisker off of a tiger in the wild and you're still alive, it's good luck.
I would think.
You would think?
Yes.
Now, we did not pull a whisker off one of the tigers in the back where we hold the tigers for the performances. They often rub their faces along the edge of caging or whatever it may be, and they'll break a whisker off, and we can always find a Tiger Whisker. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to bring it to her and say, I'd like to give you a Tiger Whisker. Very few people have one of these. I wish you the very best in life. Thank you again, and best wishes to all of you. And the family went on their way.
Okay.
I spent 15 minutes with this family. They walked out of the theater. I told the guys, including Ricky, thank you for everything that you've done. And part of bringing this special moment to this family, go have a good night, take off, chill, get out of here. I say it basically because literally once we had done that with the family, that was it. It was, okay, great, thank you. I know you guys got to get out of here. See you later. Bye. And it was that abrupt moment, not that I was trying to turn the chapter, but we'd done something for someone and that was it. And we went on our way.
But you had to have felt pretty cool I could imagine a 13-year-old girl, because Samson he's a beautiful animal. And I can imagine this 13-year-old girl just marveling at the fact that she is patting and rubbing and putting her fingers in all that beautiful fur of a real honest to gosh tiger. In fact, and a tiger she's just seen involved in some amazing things on stage during the show. Mm-hmm. She must have just been elated. What was she like? Describe her demeanor during this.
Silent.
Really?
Really. I tried to get questions out of her. Uh-huh. She just sat there staring at Samson, just petting him. Now, I told you about giving this girl a Tiger Whisker.
Right.
She was excited, but I think that it's still overwhelming sitting next to a 500-pound creature.
Okay.
She was thrilled. There's just you'd have parents with their hands to their mouths and their faces just showing appreciation, whatever you may call it. It was obviously there. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, can I tell you at that very moment, that's one of those things where I told you, I've been working with tigers for ages. I walk the tiger out on stage. That tiger is with me 24 hours a day. Yeah. I work with him in my shows. We present these animals to the public. Yes, it is awesome. But at the same time, for us, it is commonplace by that time in my career. Mm-hmm. So the family went on their way. And we continued on with our lives. Mm-hmm. And this is where the story changed. So she's been given the Tiger Whisker. And 3 months later, about 2 or 3 months later, I'm out shaking hands with the public. And there is a family waiting patiently till the very end to say hello to me. And as they get closer, I realize that it's the family. You had mom, dad, and 2 sons.
And somebody's missing.
I'm so sorry.
Wow.
Give me a moment.
No, I get it, Rick, because I know this story, and it's already gotten to me too.
So when they came up to me, I said, "Oh my goodness, it's good to see you again. Why'd you come back to my show?" Mm-hmm. And they said, "This is closure for our family. We lost our daughter." And I at that moment, those are hard moments to talk about. Yes, the family may had a couple months to have processed it, but not me. I'm really bad. Don't ever take me to a movie. I'm the first person to cry. I'm the first person to fall apart. And here I am with a family just sharing with me that they'd lost their daughter. And I said, I appreciate that, but why did you come back to me? Why was it so special? And they said, you do not understand. The only thing she wanted to be buried with was your Tiger Whisker.
Oh, my goodness.
And I realized at that moment, after we had given just a few moments of our lives to somebody else, that it was a massive part of theirs. And the little things that you do for somebody else could be the biggest thing in their life.
Right.
And for that family, that was monumental. They had to come back and share the story with me. And for me to realize what I had done, how little I thought it may have been for their family. So for me, it changes my life. It changes my life to realize that every time I walk out on that stage, there are people that are in that audience who are challenged, who have a hard life that they're living. I can tell you from that point forward, there are people that have literally come out of my show and they will walk up to me and they will just hug me and they will start crying and they will hold on to me. And I said, what are you doing? And they said, your show is what I needed to see tonight. My show is about following your dreams. And I tell people nothing happens until you dream. And by the time you get to the end of my performance, it isn't about the magic. It's not about Rick Thomas. It's about following your dreams. And there are people saying, I needed someone to tell me to keep following my dreams, to get up, to stand up, and to move forward and not to stay down. I just went to a convention in New York, and it's called the APAP convention. It is for entertainers and producers or presenters at theaters across the country. And while I was standing there watching these people walk by my booth as I continued to share my show with presenters who would want to present it across the world, I stood there and I thought to myself, after the challenges that we've all faced these past few years, there are people once again in this room who decided to come to this big event and make sure that they put on the shows that they need to put on in their theaters. And present those shows and bring entertainers to their shows so that the public can enjoy their lives. And my point is with this, it is really, really, really hard to create a show and pull off a production. I applaud anybody who goes out there and tries to present a show and do so in front of the public. But there's so many people who stop. There's so many people who don't go all the way. And my point was when I was standing there watching all of these producers and these presenters, I realized that there are so many people out there who stop before the applause. They stop before the applause. And once you get the applause, you realize why you do it. And this young girl, when I gave her the Tiger Whisker, and I realized that this was that moment for their life. That's why I do this. And for that reason, I am humbled, thrilled, and embarrassed at the same time for falling apart.
Don't be embarrassed to fall apart, Rick. It's just your honesty coming out. It's the honesty of how touched you are by this story still. I cried when I read this the first time. I'm on a plane reading the book for the first time when we were just talking about starting the podcast. And oh my gosh, it got me. That first time, it got me right here tonight when we're recording tonight. When you started and you talked about the family wait in the corner, I was like, oh boy, hold on. Because it's so touching that, you know, again, an inconsequential to you 15 minutes really meant the world to these people, and especially to Sarah, as we're calling her. I just have this picture of this little one just taking that darn Tiger Whisker with her everywhere she went, because, you know, it's in the book, so it's not a secret. She had cancer. So every horrible treatment and, you know, doctor appointment, I just have a funny feeling that she had that Tiger Whisker in a little purse or something. and it went everywhere she went.
I actually have a tiger. Well, I have a lot of tiger whiskers. I have them in a box, but I have framed one of them for that purpose alone. I can say this again. I've said these lines before. You need to be kinder to everyone because you have no idea what they're going through.
No.
You need to realize that the little things you do in someone's life can be the biggest thing in somebody else's, whether it be for positive or for negative. The things you say to people can change their lives. In fact, Tammy, you and I even know we had a conversation right before this even started about people who remember things that we possibly said or did that affected them for years, and we had no idea.
Yeah, we don't. And sometimes it's something so silly that somebody has held on to for years.
Again, they can't let it go.
They can't let it go. And we were both recently confronted with somebody who had an issue with us in the past that we hadn't even remembered or even known about. And they bring it up so many years later, and you're like, oh my God, really? That still matters? Come on, move on. But you don't know. You never know. And, with you have no idea how many people in your audience you've affected in a positive way. I really want everybody to get the download of the book. I can be pretty cynical. I really can. And when I read the book, I read it on a plane. And, by the time I got done with it, because I read it in one sitting because I had a long flight, I was inspired. I was like, okay, girl, all the things that you've been thinking, you did. Because, we all sit there and look at our career and, you're super successful. I have done okay. And, you sit there and go, but I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I didn't do this. I was like, knock it off, girl. Okay, you're still standing, and get out there and do those things you want to do. Come on. Your book gave me a pep talk. I'm serious. And again, I'm pretty cynical. I really am about a lot of things. But it worked. That's why I want people to get this book. Walking out of your show, like you said, and this is what people don't expect with a show like yours. They expect to be amazed. They expect to see beautiful girls dancing. They expect to see, you making things disappear and reappear and, all the wonderful things that happen in the show. But they don't expect an inspiration because it's not usually what you get from a big show like yours. You get, 90 minutes or 120 minutes of, I'll do that for you, of amazement, fantastic, wow, oh my goodness. But you don't expect to get anything that, I'm going to put it this way.
That's life-changing?
Yeah. That actually
could change your life.
Right, that matters more than the 90 minutes or 120 minutes of wowness.
I appreciate it. But I can tell you now also is that child, that girl, actually changed my life as well. So this wasn't me changing somebody else's life.
Yeah.
This was somebody else changing mine. And she had no idea that what may have been a very simplistic thing for them to do at the request of their daughter and coming back and sharing that with me changed my life. It changed the way I look at how I present. Now, does it mean I'm perfect? Does it mean that nobody ever gets mad at Rick Thomas or has problems with me or issues, or I have a cast who just like, oh my goodness, he just doesn't quit. Whatever it may be, I am human.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that those moments in your life are special and that you should hold on to them and never forget. I love going to the movies. It allows me 2 hours of escape. And sometimes those movies are so life-changing that I go back home and it inspires me to do something with my show and make it even better than it is. So I appreciate other people sharing their talents with me and inspiring me to be a better person. And I am grateful to that family. I'm grateful to that young girl and how she changed my life. And I just hope that I can continue to do so as I present my show in the future.
I think that's going to happen, Rick. I do. I think that's going to happen. The book itself is so much of an inspiration as well. And, that's what compelled us to do the podcast.
It did.
To help get that message
No,
out there.
it compelled you. I guess you read it on the plane and you called me and said, Rick, why is this not on a podcast?
Uh-huh.
And in fact, we've been talking about actually doing this as a video as well, because
Yes.
there are so many people out there that literally want to see us chat.
Yes.
So maybe we can pull it off, huh, Tammy?
We can. It's called a vodcast.
All right.
That's what they're called. And all we have to do is figure out the right time to do it. And actually, we got to talk about that because I know the right time to do it. So
I thank you.
Rick, it is my pleasure. Yeah, I'm going to have a little cry a little later on. I know that I'm going to because I'm holding it back. I'm doing a marvelous job too, by the way.
You did, and as a person of the press, yes, you have done just as you should have, and that was control your emotions. But it's hard for me because that conversation isn't always the moment when I say the only thing she wanted to be buried with was the Tiger Whisker. Was that allowing me to, again, have all my emotions rush back into my life, realizing that we take our lives, that our life is short,
yes,
that our life is a challenge, that we should embrace it, that we let the petty things in life destroy us, that we think less of ourselves than we are. All those things come back to me. When I say that one line, that one little line is when Rick says, like you said, chill. Stop beating yourself up.
Yep.
You are so much more. You know what? Do you know what? There was a line, my favorite line in a movie, and it was a couple years ago. And it was Tom Hanks.
Okay.
And he played Mr. Rogers.
Oh, okay. I
in
didn't
the
see
Mr.
it,
Rogers show.
But I know about
You didn't
the movie.
see it?
No, I never had time
If I
to go
tell
to
you the
movies.
line, I'm gonna tell you anyway.
Okay.
He's sitting there with a gentleman, and I'm not going to get it right, but you're going to get the gist of it.
Okay.
It is one of those Tiger Whisker moments. And he turned to him and he just sat there and he says, I want you for 1 minute to think about your life, who you are, and how you got here. And literally, Tom Hanks sits there with this guy and he stares into the camera for an entire minute, 60 seconds, silent. And he says, what I want you to think about is how many people came before you to make you who you are today. And right there, that's the mind. And he stops and he just stares at him.
Wow.
And he says, you need to realize the multitude, the massive multitude of people who have come and gone before you to make you who you are today. I want you to think about that. Then I want you, and then at the end of it, he says, then I want you to tell me you are worthless. You have no life.
Wow.
And that's with all of us.
Wow.
We all come, you can't even comprehend. And that's why I think genealogy becomes so strong. And again, I am throwing more words in than he didn't have to say anything. He just literally said, I want you to think about all the people who came before you,
Right.
who made you who you are today. And it was silent.
Wow.
And you're like, and you sit there and you start crying. You're like, oh my gosh, do you have any idea how many people have lived and died and struggled as to who you are today? And it's all of them bunched up in you.
So, Rick, the Tiger Whisker story, that's the most impactful story. That's the one you know of. But you have no idea how many stories, maybe not quite as dramatic, you don't know about that have gone on in your audience and that people have walked out with something they didn't come in with, but that they needed. You don't know. Thousands, at least.
Gina, I'm hemming and hawing because during our conversation tonight, and this is literally we just talk. But during the discussion, because I know the Tiger Whisker story, it allowed me to also allow my mind to wander and think about my life. And the moment you just said that, I have to go back just really briefly. My sister and I were in ballroom dancing. She taught us ballroom dancing, and we competed in ballroom dance throughout our youth and teens. And she often would take us down to the children's hospital and have us dance for the children in the hospital, those with tremendous challenges. And I would then do some magic for them as well. Now, I was doing this for my grandmother. My grandmother said, this is what we're doing. This is where we're going. And you're going down here and you're going to give of your time to these children. And I want you to entertain these children. Right. Now, at that time in my life, you're walking through the hospital and yes, you see these children and these families and these parents and the tears and the challenges they're facing, but it's not you.
Right. Oh, yeah.
At that age, you don't feel what they're feeling. You're not going through it. So I'm out there and I'm dancing and I'm doing what my grandmother tells me to do. And now as I have the opportunity to do and look back on my life, I realize also what my grandmother was trying to teach me or do, and that is give to those who need to be uplifted, change their lives and give them something special. And little do I know, she was doing that for me when I was just a child. And later in my life, I had the opportunity to give back, as I would guess often I have, but I'm going to tell you this as well. Let's turn this around on everybody listening. Everyone has a Tiger Whisker to give to somebody else. You just need to find it and give it. Find your Tiger Whisker and share it with the world.
Sometimes, Rick, it can be as tiny a Tiger Whisker, if you will, as telling somebody they did a good job. Sometimes we'll be at a restaurant and we'll get just the most exemplary service from a server, and we'll call for the manager before we leave and tell them and tell the server. And, in our world, we're so ready to complain. Boy, will we complain, something goes wrong. Boy, we will have our say. But how often do we take the time to say the positive? I had one young lady that we complimented right at the table, and I swear she almost started to cry because she had just had a terrible night with people, and she needed to know that she was good and that she mattered, and because I guess some customers had just beat her up that night. And she just was on the verge of tears. It's really sometimes as simple as that. We just have to take the time.
I thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I know this was a tough one, but thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on Nothing Happens Until You Dream, starring Rick Thomas and featuring Tammy Trujillo, and is based on Rick Thomas's best-selling book, The Tiger Whisker, available on rickthomas.com. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'd love for you to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out on Patreon for exclusive members-only content. Stay up to date with Rick and Tammy at nothinghappensUntilYouDream.com. Remember, you must follow your dreams, not only for yourself, but for the rest of our future. We'll see you on the next episode.